Assalamu alaikum, or today I'm going to be talking about how I calculate my zakat in Ramadan and not make it so scary. First of all, I just want to say welcome to Simple Muslim Money, which is all about simple halal investing and personal finance for Muslims. Now, if you've never paid zakat before, just pick a date and use it every year. Now, zakat is something that as Muslims, we have an obligation to pay. It's a way of sort of kind of purifying our money by giving some money to charity. There's only certain charities that we give it to. And what I do is that I just use the middle of Ramadan, and that's when I pay my zakat, and I do that every year. Another important thing to remember is that zakat is every year in the Islamic calendar, which is like a little bit shorter than the regular calendar that we use in the West. So yeah, it's important to just kind of keep doing that every year. And now before you do pay zakat, make sure you meet the Nisab threshold before you kind of pay zakat. And most working adults will kind of meet that. It's something around £400 a year. So if you have about £400 a year, then you're sort of eligible to pay for zakat. Now, zakat is quite straightforward on cash. You just, any cash, whatever you have in your accounts and things like that, you just pay 2.5%, which is actually quite a small amount. So if you have like £1, it's just like 2.5 pence, or, you know, if you have $1, it's 2.5 cents. So yeah, when you kind of think about like that, it doesn't seem like that much, but sometimes in my mind, even I know, like sometimes, oh my gosh, it could be quite a lot of money and things like that. But that's how to sort of think about it. And also it's the same for crypto as well. So crypto is kind of considered as cash. So you just sort of pay 2.5% on that as well. And also with business assets as well. So if you do own a business, so I've got this business that I kind of use for my YouTube and stuff like that. So any cash and things like that I have as part of that business, then I pay 2.5% on that. And if you have some sort of business with, like, you know, that sells stock and food and things like that, any stock that you have, you sort of pay 2.5% on that as well, which, like, I didn't actually know before. So this is something I'm just sort of kind of improving my sort of learning on. And yeah, it's kind of, and what really helps is kind of planning zakat beforehand as well, and trying to save up that money. And also it's good to plan and save zakat up early. So what I do is throughout the year, I kind of have a little pot where I just kind of put bits of money in, because I know I'm going to have to pay zakat at you know, whenever sort of Ramadan pops up. And it's always good to do that. It just feels great when you do that, and just kind of have that automatically kind of saved up is ideal. And yeah, that way, like, when zakat comes around, you know, usually, you know, I used to kind of get really worried and, oh my gosh, do I have enough cash? Do I have to sell stuff and things like that? It just kind of makes it a lot easier. And one of the things I talk a lot about on this channel is having index funds, especially in the UK. You have them within ISAs, which are these government sort of tax advantage schemes. And with index funds, the way you kind of pay zakat on those is that you work out what the assets are. Now, with an index fund, because you're investing in so many companies, it's kind of like very difficult to work out the assets of each company. And it would be very time consuming to figure that out. So what a lot of people have advised as well, something from seeing other sort of financial Islamic finance kind of sources and things like that, is just that you assume that 25% of that is assets, and then you just pay 2.5% on that. So you're not paying 25% zakat, you're paying 2.5% on the 25%. So yeah, just to make it out. Otherwise, some people, oh my gosh, I got to pay so much zakat and things like that on my stock, but that is not the case at all. So yeah, just make sure you assume that 25% of how much you own in the index fund. So say if I have £1,000 in the index fund, then 25% is 250, then I pay 2.5% on that 250. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And yeah, it is quite simple when you kind of put it like that. Now, the next common thing I want to talk about is pensions. Now, with pensions, if you have a private one, usually what I do is I kind of put it into an index fund. So pensions, if you have a private pension, or one that's given from your work that is not from a public company, because those are kind of different, then zakat is eligible on that. And the way you pay on that, again, you kind of, if it's in an index fund, then you assume 25% of that is assets, and then you pay 2.5% on that. So it is actually quite, once you get into it, kind of is a lot kind of easier to understand. And also remember to take out any debts that are owed to you. So, you know, if anyone owes any debts, you need to remove all of those first. So if someone owes you, say, £10,000, and you take out £10,000 from how much, you know, zakat is eligible, you could take out these sort of debts. If you've got any sort of upcoming bills, big bills that you need to pay as well, so I don't know, a big gas bill or something like that, so you can actually take that out as well before you calculate your zakat. So that's from what I've read, but most of the time I don't bother. I just kind of like just see how much I have at the moment and just kind of just pay it and get it done and dusted. Also, you don't pay zakat on your residential property. So, like, you know, I live in this house, so I don't pay any zakat on how much this property is worth and things like that, because I'm kind of living in there, I'm kind of using it. However, if you do have like a residential like a buy-to-let property, then you do have to sort of pay zakat on that and the income and stuff that you get through that. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward to work out zakat. There are some calculators online, but usually I find that it's easy just to kind of figure it out myself. Sometimes the calculators are quite rigid, or some of them don't quite make sense as much. And yeah, it is really just 2.5% on any cash or anything like that you have, and any stocks and shares that you have. You've assumed that, you know, if you've got an index fund, it's 25% of that is assets, and then you pay 2.5% on that. If you've enjoyed this video, please check out my other video where I talk about earning profit from Islamic savings accounts and why they're a fantastic way to put your savings in, or your emergency fund and things like that.